Up until this point in the season, we've been sort of traveling far and wide and building things and seeing all sorts of incredible stuff. What Lies Buried is a very contained episode.
The mandate was to come up with a show that could be contained within the station, so we didn't have to go outside, we didn't have to go to locations. We actually took a walk through the station when we were trying to come up with this idea. We were sort of staring at the ground, and one of us said, what would happen if there was a body lying underneath there? And everything basically developed from that. We call these bottle episodes, because you're basically writing a play. It has to be kind of as dense as a play, and the mystery has to be embedded in the dialogue in a way that it doesn't if you are filming all over the place with multiple locations.
And that takes a lot of the sort of focus and energy and hard work off of all of the other departments' shoulders and puts it straight onto mine, because I have to rattle off, for instance, on Monday I did 15 and a half pages of dialogue in one room. Basically, that's when I earned my money.
One of the things that I liked about it was the idea of bringing back Chief Constable Giles. We thought it would be wonderful if there could be a moment where there's a confrontation between Giles and Murdoch, going back to their first confrontation, which was about Constance Gardner.
So it's the truth you want? Forgive me, I thought it was my conviction. We're neither of us stalwarts when it comes to the truth, are we, Detective?
Meaning what?
Meaning that there is a truth that lies between us that you have yet to admit to.
The entire episode is filmed in the station, Brackenby's office, Murdoch's office, the bullpen, and the interview room.
Police station in Murdoch's era. It was on the north side of today's Dundas Street, just east of Parliament. It was a combination building of police station and fire hall. Then they opened Regent Street, which is a little street that runs near Regent Park. Then they opened this one, 51 Division, in the old Consumers Gas Building, the corner front in Parliament. So that's the sequence of number 4, although now it's called 51 Division. As you see around us here in 51, they've very cleverly used the history of the department as part of the decor in this very industrial building. To be a constable on the Toronto Police Force in those days was a feather in your cap. They weren't paid particularly well, but nobody was in those days. $2, $3 a day for payment, but of course the newspaper was a penny. There would have been something in the vicinity of 300 officers, including constables and sergeants and inspectors, and all led by one fellow.
We are standing in what we call Old Town Toronto. This is where Toronto was founded, right here on Front Street, at Front and Jarvis. Back in 1902, this truly was still pretty much the center of Toronto. The new fantastic market had just opened. It was the Eaton Centre of its day. It was one of the largest public buildings in the city. The morgue of the city stood 2 blocks from the market, and it was on Frederick Street right at the Esplanade. And down that way, down the other end of Front Street, was the Great Queen's Hotel, the real first luxury hotel we had in the city. It's where the Royal York Hotel stands today, right across from Union Station. All these warehouses along here were all would have been standing in the 19th century. The great St. James Cathedral was built in 1853. The spire was added in 1874. That would have been there. And St. Lawrence Hall on King Street, just behind me, built in 1850. It was the first real great room of Toronto, where people like Frederick Douglass, the great abolitionist, would have spoke. So John A. Macdonald, P.T. Barnum, the great circus man from New York, he used to book all his acts in there.
This would have been a real mixed neighborhood in the early 1900s. Some of the key kind of landmarks would have been, firstly, the massive gasworks that was located around Front and Parliament Street, the 51 Division Police Headquarters and the Canadian Stage Building, as well as the Canadian Opera Company Building, which are all quite lovely old buildings, would have originally been part of this gasworks. At that time, many houses and businesses would still have been lit and fueled by gas. The Distillery District would also have been a key landmark in Corktown in 1902. The breweries and distilleries would still have been major employers in the neighborhood. A couple of the oldest churches in the city are located in Corktown. Little Trinity Anglican Church is the oldest standing church in Toronto. Also, St. Paul's Basilica, which is a few blocks north. That church was constructed in the 1880s, and that parish is the oldest Catholic parish in the city.
You asked to see me. It's over, John. It's finally over.
We're into season 8 now, and I've been with the show from day one of shoot. I personally felt myself, that I'm sort of getting on in age here, and in reality, as a police officer constable, I would be certainly retired by now. Paul Aiken came up with a great storyline for Constable Hodge. A nice goodbye episode.
If you have a story, and it's a really good story, and that involves sacrificing one of your constables, you tend to think story first. And so Brian Callback was a victim. Mind you, he's not going to prison for long. He will probably never be a member of the police constabulary again. But I would hope that at some point, Brian Callback gets a call back.
Nothing like a hot cup of tea. Oh, you're a good man, Dodger.